carried. Item 19 is the Community-Based Work Transition Program funding.
I make a motion that the board approve the community-based work transition program matched funding of $8,000 for fiscal year 2015. And since you got a good crowd here,
Just a moment.
I second the motion.
okay. And you may
Mr. Miles.
You may want to.
Just address what community-based work transition program is. That is a program that is actually housed at Marion County High School, and it gives students an opportunity to do just what it says. It's a community-based work transition program. So instead of being at school for a period, they may transition out and actually work out in the community, and it works into a beautiful setting for a student to actually transition from high school to after high school. And so they actually teach some of the soft skills that Mr. Abel talked about. We've got a staff member that does that, and we actually provide the transportation for those children. So it's actually part of their school day, it's part of their schedule, it's a lot of good things. We do resumes, we take them on college visits, they actually compete. So it's a great program for not a lot of money. It's a matching program, matching grant. So it's good that we can match that for our kids.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 20 is lunch price increase.
Make a motion that the board approve the price increase of 10 cents for paid lunches for 2014-2015 school year. I do have a question on
I
that.
second the motion.
I'm just asking, shouldn't we expand on that just a little bit about the state? I mean, it looks like that we're just arbitrarily raising the price.
I'm gonna refer that to Ms. Evans.
Can we have, add a little something to this, like the state is telling us to do this?
I would suppose that you could add that, as Ms. Slosher explained, there's a paid lunch equity tool that we are required to do by the federal government. And in doing that comparison, actually, it really said on that, with that tool, that we should raise our prices by 13 cents. We didn't want to recommend that 13 cents. We wanted to leave it at 10. And I don't see that we have really any choice, because as she explained, you know, you have to, or the board, somebody's going to have to make up some additional funding for that. But
Right, see, that's all I was saying is
just to add that it's a requirement, I think you're just wanting a wording.
so the public doesn't think, well, we just raised the prices.
No, we prefer not to, you know,
Right.
we prefer not to, but that's not an option right now.
Would you mind just stating the lunch prices?
I have a paper up there for you that has all the lunch prices currently, the lunch and breakfast as well. And with the price increases from 2011-12 to the current. And in that, the lunch price currently for high school is $2.10, which the increase would bring it to $2.20. Middle school is $2.05 currently, which would be $2.15, and elementary is $1.95, and that would make their cost be $2.05. We're not looking at an increase on extra milk or extra juice. This is for lunches only at this point. However, we may have to come back and look at later, maybe doing something with adult price lunches. But there is not a recommendation in this currently to do any increase in prices for breakfast or anything. But all that information you have in a sheet that looks like this, so that you can have it to look over at your convenience.
So what you're saying, breakfast prices will be the same?
Yes, that's the plan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Item 21 is fiscal year 2015 salary schedules. And of course, you mentioned a 1%. I'm sorry.
Right. I move that the board approve the salary schedules for fiscal year 2015. Please refer to the attachment number 1.
I second.
As I said in my superintendent's report, the state has mandated a raise, which that means that hopefully they're going to provide the funding for that. Not that we wouldn't like to give more and do that every year, but as you all know, there's only so much of the pie, and it can only be divvied out. The plan is from the state level and through us is we can give a 1% raise this year and a 2% raise next year.
And that is to all employees.
All
classified.
employees, classified and certified, and also every year what we'll do is also do a step increase. And then for anyone who's received further education, then there's also on our salary scale an increase. Another item that we talked about is that we want to add to our middle school program a middle school baseball and a middle school softball program. As you all know, the Athletic Association has been talking about putting that under their umbrella, and I see one of our representatives here. I've talked to both our middle school and softball coaches, just informally. We've talked about what that's going to look like, so we did add that to the salary schedule for middle school. I would think the way we would want to get started with that at this point is have one team for both middle schools, because you only have, basically we have two small middle schools, and that's a good thing because of that family orientation. In some districts, you have a large middle school like you have a large high school. If you put both our middle schools together, you'd have 700 kids, and our kids would not get as much individual attention. So we could start out this way. Obviously, if it grows, that could be something that we could bring back to the board in a few years and say that we would want to be able to have a team at both places like we do with our baseball and our football and our volleyball.
And what's the one team going to be on?
Baseball and softball. And so we'll have that district-wide. And then another thing that we talked about was to have a district-wide athletic director and assistant athletic director. And I think Mr. Miles asked me at the board meeting, what's going to be the difference in that. So, if this is approved, the district-wide athletic director would be around $7,500. Normally, that's costing us around $6,800 a year. That is lower than what a head football or basketball coach makes at the high school. And then if we do the assistant athletic director would be $3,200. That would be to serve both middle schools. Both middle schools actually, the principals actually have supervision. They start the year out with football, girls basketball, and then in the winter their sports are basketball, boys basketball, and then in the spring you have volleyball for girls, and then now you're going to have softball and baseball, and then you have cheerleading. So, it continues to grow, and obviously our academics grow as well. So that's one of the things that we've talked about. Another change that I would like to recommend is that when you go over and you look at, when we talked about no accidents, and obviously we've talked about that several times, and like Joe said, obviously I don't want to jinx anything, but on our salary schedule before, we wanted to make sure that our maintenance and our mechanics were paid equivalent to districts around us, because it was brought to my attention, and not that I didn't know this, it was brought to my attention. If we have an accident, the first thing they're going to look at is those bus inspection forms. When that bus rolls out, they want to know that they are safe. They want to know the wheels on the bus are the right wheels for that bus. They want to know that the parts on that bus actually are for that bus and they're not generic. We're not going to go down to, we don't have an Ace Hardware, so I can say this, we're not going to go down to Ace Hardware and buy a bolt to go, that bolt has to go with that engine. Because if we were to have an accident, that's the first thing they're going to do, other than to make sure that our bus driver is not under the influence of alcohol or drugs. That's going to be the first thing that happens. That's what's going to happen. So we want to make sure that those folks are paid an equivalent salary of what some surrounding counties would do. So that's one of the things. And then also our administrative assistants, assistant 1 and assistant 2, it really should be about the number of folks that they're dealing with on a daily basis. It should not be about where they work at in the district. It shouldn't be that just because you work at the central office you make more money. The high school secretary over there or bookkeeper, they're actually dealing with 1,000 children and 100 employees and all other families and guardians. And I see Mr. Abel nodding his head, and I've worked at the high school as well. That's a huge responsibility for those kinds of things. So those are the changes. Obviously, we've added some responsibility to payroll manager. So that's a different salary, and that's about it.
Now, are you saying that that's in this motion here, all that?
Yes. And the reason we've got to approve the salary
Oh, okay.
schedule is because our physical year ends June the 30th and begins July 1. So our 12-month employees, like our mechanics and our buses and our maintenance crew, and like I said, you know, if you'll look, we're working on a maintenance crew right now, 3 people. I think a couple of years ago, we had 5, am I right? And we had a foreman. We're down to 3 people.
And you got one other one on there, and that's energy manager.
Yes.
And Scott, I'm not picking on you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to, I apologize, but remember we talked about,
Yeah. And so my question is, how is that cost compared to being part of the energy management?
Compared to what we were, it's about 25% less than what we were paying to be part of the consortium with the other districts.
Yeah. And do they still have the grant about the energy managers? Are we?
It's not like it was, no, it's faded out. What it was, it's supposed to be off the ground, it's to go on for finishing the 4th year, for it's kind of got the seed plan per se. That's what that additional grant was for, and a lot of districts really pick them up like we have in the last couple of years to establish that position here.
And I'm not, believe me, I'm not picking on you.
Unfortunately,
But,
it's a law.
but you know, the word was that you was county doing most of it anyway, what I heard. But so it's a pretty good increase in your salary, but it's also a savings to the district.
It is.
So, you know, that's the reason why I asked, and it's in the open
It's
meeting.
still less than what we were paying to be part of the.
Okay.
All in favor of approving the salary schedule for fiscal year 2015?
Aye.
Item 22 is fuel bids.
I make a motion that the fuel bid, that the board grant the fuel bid to White Oil Company for 2015. And there's a breakdown of the rack price, which they buy it directly from the rack.
I second the motion.
Any comments?
Just ask, is it low bid? Is that what we went?
It is, based on our consumption rates, white oil is about $150 cheaper over the course of the year, based on our average price we put specs.
Okay.
I've got one question too. So where it says diesel,
Yes, sir.
9 cents a gallon, what is that?
It's the
Is that
rack
an
plus.
increase?
It's the right, well, they're paying off the rack, off the
Okay.
refinery, plus 9 cents
Okay.
per gallon, what would we paying?
All in favor of approving the fuel bids?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Item 23 is the superintendent's travel expense.
I move that the board approves Superintendent Schlosser's travel expense for the month of May 2014.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Item 24 is funding approval for the Marion County Area Tech Center project.
I move that the board approve the funding for $15,000 for the Marion County Area Technology Center class project pending approval of additional financial support from Marion County Job Consortium.
Second.
Any-
I say Kenny's back there.
I can answer that. What we've been working with, thankfully, we have the opportunity to have someone in our district that now is an employee and can help be the liaison between the job consortium and Marion County ATC and Marion County High School. What we found through his work is that we've actually found that it would be nice to actually change our industrial maintenance lab to our carpentry lab and vice versa. In doing that, we're actually going to have to change out some equipment. We are very fortunate as well to receive a huge piece of equipment, a dust collector, where our carpentry shop is going to go. And as you all know, last month at our last board meeting, I showed a picture of the house. And now next semester, in the winter semester, we're actually going to be doing more cabinet work. So with that being said, you have a dust collector system. And before our building inspector will approve that, we're actually going to have an architect draw the plans up and do a study. And what the job consortium has said to us is that they will actually help us with this project. So what they're wanting to see from the Board of Education tonight is, are we willing to basically go in as partners to make this switch work? And obviously, we all agree, the ATC, Mr. Merritt, myself, the teachers, Mr. Barton, we all agree that this is the direction we want to go to continue to grow our ATC and to make sure that when kids leave our ATC, they actually have the skills they need to go out into workforce.
And we need the extra room for carpentry, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've worked up there with the instructor, and he can't even get his projects in through the overhead door. The industrial maintenance lab doesn't require theirs, and they're the two largest stores in the whole building. So, the switch needs to take place. Based on some information that's gotten together today and what information that I've had prior experience, because at one time I owned the equipment that was given to the board, we estimate this project to run right around $50,000. So you're 15, and of course the consortium has the intentions of putting up the other 35. We don't have that finalized yet, but that's our intentions. We don't want to, we're trying to encourage our instructors to maybe do a little bit more, and we don't want to tie their hands in making it possible. So we're going to give them the means to make that possible.
And you should anticipate that Scott and I are working with Mr. Merritt, and we're working with possibly a new architect on what that BG1 is actually going to look like. Because, you know, this is going to be something that's going to benefit our children for years to come. And it is a process. It's a process, so anticipate that.
I'm kind of impatient, as anybody didn't know. I don't want to wait till December to get this project done, so, you know, if there's a way we can expedite it, it would be really nice. And we may, once we decide on, or you decide on an architect, then we may, instead of waiting till another regular board meeting, ask you to approve that architect, like at a call meeting or something like that, if it's possible. Okay?
I appreciate you're the driving force behind this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor of approving the funding project for the Area Tech Center?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Item 25 is the consent items.
I make a motion the board approve the following consent items. And since they're all listed up there, I'm not going to read through every one of them. So if anybody has any questions about them, then you can raise your hand.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Item 26 is Superintendent Slaughter's notification of certified personnel. Item 27 is Superintendent Slaughter's notification of classified personnel. And if there's nothing else that pertains to the agenda tonight,
I move that that we board adjourn the meeting.
I second.
It's 7:25, looks like.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned.